Should be live. Let's make sure that is actually the case. Of course, over on Rumble, there's a little bit of a delay. All of the tabs, I believe, are already lined up. Make sure they're all working. I didn't put anything in out of order. I see that chat is working on Rumble. That's a good sign. Let's get this done. Yes, we are live on Rumble as well. I'll be paying attention to both chats. All right, everyone, we've got plenty of news to cover today. Quite a bit of it. I think I've got 10 news stories that I've got to cover today. Of course, we have to start with Letitia James and the witch hunt case against Trump. A lot of Trump in the news all of the time. By the way, considering we're only a few weeks out from midterms, that's not entirely coincidental. Meanwhile, Biden having a major senior moment at the Global Fund speech the other day. This is not big in the news media. Again, I wonder why. And also this morning, I made a video with regards to a COPE article, a preemptive COPE for when Stacey Abrams loses in the Georgia gubernatorial bid. They're not even waiting and giving her a chance and saying, well, like there's like a 5% chance maybe she wins. Maybe the polls are all completely wrong. They're looking at the numbers and they're expecting her to lose. So they've already done a COPE article on Slate. I talked about that this morning in a video. Jesus Christ. It's beyond the pale. I hear that the baby is currently hungry or something. Oh, yeah, and then we've got the 11th Circuit decision as well. We'll be talking about all of this and much, much more. You can clank along if you want. I don't have a spoon here other than the decorative one, so I can't clank at the moment. Sad. Anyway, we'll get right into this. Bloomberg reporting Trump sued by New York over fraudulent asset valuations. Suit follows years-long probe by New York AG Letitia James. You'll remember her as the one who explicitly campaigned for that position based on trying to bring down Trump. So, when people are saying this is not politically motivated, they're wrong. She literally campaigned on that, to be clear. Lawsuit also names 3 Trump children and the Trump Organization. And their filings, they're saying that he lied about various valuations. And they're seeking $250 million and referring the case to the DOJ and IRS. It's a witch hunt. Now, let me tell you the real reason for this and the real reason for the timing behind them ending their probe and referring, potential charges. It's to prevent Donald Trump from having access to his vast fortune, to stop him from running for the presidency, or to kneecap him if he does run by forcing him to do more fundraising. That is explicitly what this is. It is a witch hunt. It's a meritless case. You can expect it to be settled in Trump's favor mainly in the future, but that will be quite some time for now, as we saw with the fact that the probe has already dragged on for an extended period of time. They've been throwing enormous resources at this. They wouldn't be doing that for no reason. They're claiming that he, for example, one of the claims, in her suit, James noted that Mar-a-Lago was valued as high as $739 million based on Trump's representation that it was unrestricted and could be developed and sold. At the same time, Mr. Trump himself signed deeds donating his residential development rights and sharply restricting changes to his property. I would like to point out the weasel words in this filing. Restricting changes to the property does not mean that it cannot be developed, just to be clear. And of course, this is a Florida property. It's not a New York property. You're going to end up with Floridian representatives, potentially, Trump being a resident there anyway now, getting involved with this. They were talking about how he overestimated the square footage of his apartment in Trump Tower in New York, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The problem is that the valuation of a property is very much malleable. And all of this now has to be played out in court potentially anyway. You're looking at many, many, many moons, many, many dark hours by candlelight spent by lawyers on both sides trying to figure out exactly what's what. It's a meritless case. Ultimately, again, in the end, I expect Trump to prevail here. It's basically to try to put a lock on his money, prevent him from selling properties, prevent him from obtaining money from the Trump Organization, et cetera, because they know that that's a big advantage that he has over, in a primary, other Republicans, number one, and in a general election over any other candidate. he can self-fund. He doesn't have to suck corporate cock. He doesn't have to take time out of his schedule to do many fundraisers, although he can. He's got 2-to-1 appearances on any other potential candidate. This is what he did in 2016. He did it in 2020, and they're afraid of it. And so this is part of the multi-pronged Trump derangement syndrome approach to try to stop him from re-entering the presidency. Not a banned account. Ever randomly wake up at the witching hour, 3 a.m.? Yeah, I'm an insomniac. I do that all the time. Space Ghost N sent $4.99. No comment. Thank you. Joe, Letitia James, the tishiest of tishies. Yeah, the walls are closing in. Only 2 more weeks to go, Blue Anon. We've got him this time. I mean, it's not even a criminal charge, to be clear. You're talking about restitution. They will probably not be receiving that. What they're trying to do is put a lock on his money, have the federal government step in and say, you can't spend any of this money, Mr. Trump, because it's pertinent to an ongoing civil case against you. So you can't use it to fund your campaign. It's a plain as day. That's exactly what's happening. Mr. Wonderful. Your Honor, my client has a solid gold toilet. The defense rests. Yeah, exactly. The idea that Trump is not worth much has been peddled before. You'll remember when Rachel Maddow had that near career-ending gaffe where they obtained some old financial statements from Trump, and they were trying to make the case that, oh, Mr. Trump's not actually a billionaire. He only made $100 and some odd million in the fiscal year, and it was, I think, 2011 or something. And people pointed out that net worth and salary is not the same thing, and she got massive egg on her face, including from some liberals at the time. And he only made $100 million. Can I only make $100 million? Look, I'll only work for a month, and I'll draw, the proportion, and then I can retire. That Manx guy. Funny, Abrams is an extremely effective main battle tank, and Stacey Abrams only thinks she is, too. Gornoy's bulldozer. Would you rather listen to National Socialist black metal or RABM? I don't know what the RA is in a different type of black metal. I like most black metal. I even like post-black metal, sort of the shoegaze-esque side of it. Sparky, Kemp screwed Trump on the 2020 election. Getting re-elected is his payback. That's why Abrams isn't pushed. Kemp is not MAGA. It doesn't matter if he's MAGA. He's clearly better than Stacey Abrams on every ideological platform, which is why he's 5 to 6 points ahead. So yeah, we've got a civil suit filed in New York. It's alleging fraud, systemic, massive fraud by the Trump organization. We'll see. I wouldn't be hanging my hat on it if I was a liberal. This time it's going to stop Trump. Where have we heard that? How many times are we going to have to fucking hear that before they give up? I don't think that they ever will. The dude will be in the ground. They'll sue his skeleton. Next, we have Biden's senior moment. This is quite worrisome. Link in the description. Not archived. It's a Pasoviec post, and it's a video. It's only 33 seconds long, and you should watch it. Joe Biden wraps up what he's saying, wanders to the side of the stage, apparently not knowing where the hell he is, seems surprised at being addressed as Mr. President. This is 5 or 6 gaffes in the course of a half a minute, actually. And it is a dementia moment. He's having a sundown moment in this video. It's not fun to see because Alzheimer's is no joke and it's a very sad topic. But people were warned. You were electing somebody that was clearly not all there mentally. You've had a year and a half now. The issue has continued to metastasize. Joe Biden is less mentally there than he was a year or a year and a half ago. We've been able to see it in real time. If we had more data points, it'd be even more evident. They do the best that they can to hide him from public view whenever possible. They try to prevent people from understanding just how bad the situation really is. But we have, footage from the Global Fund meeting there in which Biden gives his soaring speech and then promptly forgets where the fuck he is. And that's clearly what's happening. Just look at the body language. He's like, his hands are out. He's gesturing. Oh, Mr. President. Oh, who's that? Oh, wait, shit, I am the president. Adjusts his tie. If Trump had a moment like this, it would be front page news. In fact, we had a moment not analogous, but conceived of as being similar years ago, where there was the slippery ramp and he put his hand out to slowly walk down the railing. and people thought that that was evidence of Alzheimer's at the time. Simple Logic 90. What do you think of Richard Barris polls? I don't know. Stephen 13. The AR-15 is not all-American. The M16 is. Gornoy's Bulldozer. RABM is red anarchist black metal. Well, I don't like commie music. That being said, if it's still black metal and it rocks, it's My apologies, everyone. We got fucked up again by my computer's connection. I did manage to screen cap Totally's comment, which is, I think, fucking still appearing on screen. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I have a feeling that that chat's going to be there for the entirety of the live stream. There's no fucking way to remove it, I think. Okay, well, totally. You're getting a bonus today because of my computer deciding to fuck up. Hey, Sticks, what are your thoughts on the significance of repeating numbers? I've seen the number 333 everywhere I go for a number of years now, and finding any meaning to it is esoteric and confusing to me at best. You can always study Kabbalah and similar systems, but I'm getting distracted by seeing your comment, actually, at the moment. Ooh. Oh, there we go. Okay, I got rid of it. Well, 333 is half evil, right? Some people sell T-shirts with that message on them. Yeah, my apologies. I've got some sort of connection issue. It appears with my computer. I'll have to tinker around with it and figure out what the fuck is going on. And to Chris New, I would restart the computer, but then the live stream would completely end. And as long as I'm, here, yeah. Well, that distracted me a little bit now, didn't it? Fucking hate it. Apparently, I need to get yet another laptop. That means another laptop salvation fund, you Canadian shit poster on 4chan, you. Shout out to the Canadian shit poster on 4chan with the hilarious laptop meme. It's something like that I promise people to save their souls, but really all I do is I type their name into a notepad file and save it on my latest laptop. That's their place of salvation. And that's because I fundraised the last laptop that I got, the one that I'm using now. I think it's fine. I'm actually thinking that it might be an issue with the USB port that I've got the things hooked into. Roughneck MP173, a man with a beard wearing a robe is a wizard. And now I'm getting interrupted again. Just a sec. All right, I'm back again. Ironically, that was someone from the internet company, so I don't know what the fuck is going on today. Maybe I should just end it, throw the computer through the fucking window. But Roughneck MP173, a man with a beard wearing a robe is a wizard. A man with a goatee wearing a robe is a warlock. A man with a mustache wearing a robe isn't allowed within 100 yards of an elementary school. Censored, your thoughts on Dumb Lemon being put straight? Lol. Yeah, we talked about Don Lemon the other day. Let's see. Aid Hog sent $10. No comment, thank you. Lee, greetings from Dirty Blue, Rhode Island. I can't imagine lefties giving up their power in midterms and fear creation of mega false flag. How about you? I don't think that they're going to have much of a choice, to tell the truth. All right, next news story. I guess I should keep these quick because I don't know. When things happen repeatedly, getting interrupted repeatedly, usually it's a bad moon rising. What Stacey Abrams is really doing in Georgia and why her race for governor is only one small part of her project. Yes, indeed, we have a preemptive cope for Stacey Abrams' epic loss, which will be coming in the midterms. That is now effectively a guarantee unless Kemp dies. Or you know, there's an act of God sort of situation. Let me try to get the poll here. I think it was literally the other day you had a new poll. Let me look at this. Kemp is now up by almost 7 points, and that's in the aggregated ballot between him and Stacey Abrams. Between his incumbent advantage, the tailwind being behind, in my opinion, the Republicans, at least for the foreseeable future. Stacey Abrams no longer really has a shot. She never really did, to tell the truth, but the polls have been widening. That is, you've got a couple of polls recently that show Kemp expanding his lead. I know that some people would say, well, he's not a MAGA Republican. He's like missing link mode. He threw Trump under the bus. It literally doesn't make any difference, to tell the truth. I mean, the alternative is Stacey Abrams. It's one of those situations. It's sort of like with Mehmet Oz in Pennsylvania. I would be reluctant, if I were a Pennsylvanian, to support Mehmet Oz. But the alternative is someone who can't string a sentence together, number one. Once called, we'll be talking about this, for the freeing of all, second-degree murderers in the state, has said weird shit with regards to guns. Mehmet Oz may be a shyster. He may have many problems, but he is measurably better. I would say the same with Kemp versus Abrams. Stacey Abrams is a hot mess. She is the ultimate in id poll candidates. She's like a less rhetorically talented version of AOC. So when I see Slate putting out an article weeks before the midterms, it's not even quite October yet, effectively apologizing for her inevitable loss, I say, well, that's basically, it's over. Talking about her being a prolific writer, being a prolific advocate for racial equity. Oh, she's quite the activist. She's esteemed herself as one of the greatest leftoids, activists of the current era. So you don't expect her to be governor. You're not spewing all of these other platitudes and denigrating her race for governor as just one part of her project, one small part of her project. The gubernatorial race, it means absolutely nothing, says Slate. She's going to write another book. Gubernatorial race? Who gives a shit about her losing that? She's going to go on CNN. And I love it. And the picture is her surrounded by a bunch of BLM morons, all dressed, of course, in red for a reason. Although I think that's from a sports game. Yeah, CWA union members. Okay, Labor Day, so commies, basically. Very, very funny. Space Ghost N. Sticks, talk about the Biden 60 Minutes interview, please, and spank you. I brought that up actually the other day in relation to some of the crazy shit he said on the economy, and the day before that with regards to Taiwan. That was the big news of that day. Lev Polyakov, a Starbucks union organizer, is interested in joining the union debate on BreakTheRules.tv for the 29th with Jess Burbank of the Young Turks and Kiosin as well. It may be too many cooks. Let me know. Yes, I will message you back about that. Don't worry. Hammerhead Ranch, do you think if the GOP takes the Senate and the Dems don't need Kamala to break a tie, Brandon will get removed? No, I don't. I think that they're more interested in simply pressuring him not to run again. I think he leans towards not running again anyway, because he knows that he wouldn't be able to win. Yeah, I'm a little bit off my game after 2 different interruptions. Now watch, the internet drops again. It's actually the same dude is jiggling the wires outside just to distract me, hoping I'll end the stream so that he can talk to me. Adam THM, Kemp is the candidate of Georgia. Abrams is the candidate of California and New York. It's where a majority of her money comes from. Yeah, you see a lot of out-of-state money right now. Next news story. Appeals court grants DOJ investigative access to classified documents seized from Trump's Mar-a-Lago. Yes, the would-be major news of the day is the 11th Circuit decision, the 11th Circuit Appeals Court, saying that Judge Cannon's stay on the use of those documents by the DOJ in their investigation into Trump, that has to end. They're allowed to access those documents. Oh my God. Again, 2 more weeks, Blue Anon. We've got him this time. It's not going to be like J6 or his tax returns or Pissgate or something like that, or Stormy Daniels or, anything else. This time it's for real. They're crying wolf once again. They're crying that the sky is falling. Here's my way in. If you look at the decision, this has to do with classified material specifically marked and headered as being classified within the document haul. Now take a look at the actual inventory list and a description of what was taken from the Mar-a-Lago. What proportion of the materials there are actually classified? A minute proportion, less than 5%. In fact, I think less than 1%. Over 11,000 pages of material that's not clearly classified. You had news clippings, you have Time magazine covers in frames, which is tacky but funny. Pure Trump, by the way, just to be clear. You have Melania's night robe and random books and miscellany and tax material, medical documents. None of these things are classified. None of these things are marked classified. This decision means nothing with regards to those. Trump requested a special master specifically to go through all of the documents there at the Mar-a-Lago to find out what was or was not pertinent to the warrant. The special master, unless there were unequivocal, absolute, and objective evidence with regards to declassification, would include those documents for the DOJ anyway. The only thing this does is speed up their access to the documents that probably Raymond Dearie would have gone through first and okayed before even bothering with the rest of the batch, because the rest is almost completely self-evidently not pertinent to the warrant. This is to keep Melania's nightgown and random news clippings and shit like that from being considered in the first place. It's the whole point of the special master being appointed. A special master that the DOJ initially did not want to exist at all. It's not because they were worried that the special master and the 11th Circuit weren't going to allow them to look at the documents. This is literally a nothing burger. Just to be clear, this means absolutely nothing and was completely expected. The fact it would have been unexpected if they had said, no, the DOJ can go through whatever the fuck it wants while Dearie's also going through it at the same time. That would have been grounds for mistrial. They're saying, no, the things that are marked classified top secret, they can continue to go through them for national security reasons. What's weird about that? There's literally nothing odd. I see some people saying, oh, see, we told you, Sticks. Dearie is going to throw Donald Trump under the bus. He couldn't do anything else, and neither could the 11th Circuit. 2 of the judges that signed off on this, by the way, were Trump appointees. Stop worrying so goddamn much. That's a fucking... Aaron C. Vucic, the president of Serbia, is saying there will be a third world war within 2 months. I'm guessing he has some political reason for saying it. Probably because he wants to have a justification for going into Kosovo. Aid Hog. By the way, did you happen to check that bizarre Poso tweet where he posted a deep fake of the kid that got ran over? Super creepy. Yeah, I posted about that. That's not the way to go about the situation. I oppose the deep fake style video of the victim of leftoid violence. I understand the purpose behind it, but that's not the way to go about getting your message across. Black995, did you hear about the groundbreaking research in fusion energy coming out of Germany? I believe fusion energy could be the energy of future and space. Or it could blow up and destroy everything for 10 miles, probably. We'll see which one happens first. The Grizzly, why do you think the Dems keep falling for nothing burgers all the time? Can't they use reason and deduction skills, or has the soy sand blasted their brain down to the stump? Well, people with sense tend not to follow left-right economic principles. And because economics and social principles tend to be intertwined in U.S. politics, there's going to be a lot less people on that side of the spectrum that have sense. Next story. This is a fluff piece, by the way. I wouldn't be surprised if the Biden White House paid for this. Why people keep correcting the president. It's all about Biden, saying things that are completely stupid or completely wrong or countermand, long-held federal positions, and then staffers and the White House press secretary and Kamala Pelosi in some cases and others coming out, rushing out as immediately to say, no, that's not what he meant. No. Well, he did mean it, but that's not the White House's position. This is framed in the instance of what he said on Taiwan. When queried a few days ago on 60 Minutes, Joe Biden said the U.S. would send men and women in to defend Taiwan if China invaded them. The White House walked it back almost as soon as he left the stage and said, our position on Taiwan has not changed, which is no, the United States does not have a direct alliance of that case. It's just bullshit, effectively. What I would point out is that trying to airbrush this and fluff it over is an extremely bad idea, because when Biden makes comments and they get immediately countermanded, leading to confusion, that's not good for business confidence. It has nothing to do directly with business in most cases, but it has an effect, trust me. Consumer confidence, diplomacy, that would be probably the biggest one. Certainly the ease of the people in the country, and that might be on purpose, trying to drive them up the wall. Joe Biden is demented. He's incapable of making clear points because he needs a script in front of him to tell him what his opinion is. If he can't have a script or an earpiece in his ear, then he has a problem. And we've seen this time and time again. Thomas McGrory, I have been listening to you since 2015 and have learned more from you than I have from my master's degree in poli-sci from UMass combined. Thank you. Oh, you're very welcome. So poor Biden. I mean, he and Stacey Abrams get fluff pieces in the same 24-hour period of time. Do you think that maybe they have a read of the political landscape that's a little bit different from the bravado that they show in the outward sense? Outwardly, the liberals are, well, the Democrats are rising. Everything's perfect. The economy's fine. Everything's hunky-dory. Ukraine will destroy Moscow and will be in a golden age economically, blah, 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 blah. But on the inside, they seem to have concerns because they keep having to make fluff pieces and apologetic cope pieces over and friggin' over. Oh boy. I'm loving these midterms. Way better than the last midterms. More exciting so far. Next story. Republicans smartly push border issue ahead of midterms. Yes, indeed. This dovetails in with something that's happened recently. Oh, I should probably close that poll out too. We're done with Stacey Abrams. So is Georgia, it seems. Here's what I would say. The border had fallen to maybe third place or maybe even fourth as an issue for the midterms. The Republicans were unwise to let the issue go because clearly they have the upper hand on the issue. And then along came Greg Abbott and Ron DeSantis, forcing it to the forefront once again. This is actually a great thing for the GOP because throughout the month of October, they're going to send more flights and more buses and more trains full of illegal immigrants to various parts of the country, which is an attempt to rabble-rouse, and that will cause it to be in the news cycle. And the liberals will say it's inhumane, and the GOP will counter by saying Biden does it all the time. It's not inhumane. And why don't you take in the people into your sanctuary cities and states, into your fucking rich bitch communities that you keep dumping at the southern border in the Rio Grande, southern Arizona, parts of urban Florida? Why do we have to care for all of them? You know, our constituents pay taxes, correct? Why don't we spread them out to your communities? You're constantly saying how great and diverse they are. And this is great for the GOP. Because for a while there, the Democrats were trying to astroturf Roe v. Wade as the main issue in the midterms. That would not necessarily be the greatest issue for the GOP to run on. If it's about the economy, they've got the upper hand. The economy sucks under Biden. Paired with that, though, you need more than one platform in a campaign. the border crisis and crime attendant to it really sort of padded out. But those had fallen off the radar somewhat. The legacy media doesn't want to talk about them unless you rope-a-dope them by sending them to a multi-million-dollar community. And then all of a sudden they have to talk about it because they have to chastise the GOP as human trafficking. They're basically treating these people like subhumans. What terrible people. They gave them a ticket to Martha's Vineyard. See, they're abusing these poor individuals. There will be more planes full headed to Martha's Vineyard, and it'll be very funny. Next time it should be 500 people so that they don't fit in the church. And then let's see what happens. We'll see how quickly they get moved on when they're erecting tents in the street in Martha's Vineyard. It'll be quick. It won't take them 46 hours this time. It might take them 2 minutes. They'll get word of the plane coming. They'll have the National Guard there to begin with. Excellent. A change is in the wind. Baker boy, have a coffee or two on me. Good for the old ticker. Stay well, brother. We have more Piro being shipped in as we speak. Thank you. The Blue Dog Man sent $20, but no comment. Thank you. Cold Warrior, watching on the big screen on Rumble. Happy 110,000. Still don't know how to rant. You just press the little money bag at the bottom, but if you're on a TV, I don't know if you're capable of doing that. I don't know. I don't watch shit on the TV. And the handful of times that Liz has had something from YouTube on the TV, it's full of ads because there's no ad blocker. Is there any way to get ad blocker for your like the TV version of YouTube they would use on an actual TV? I don't know. It must exist somewhere. Yolked Nick. Hello, Nick. Clank that like button. Why am I not surprised that leftist media isn't reporting the violence and forced deletion towards right-leaners? Yeah, they've ignored that for so many years that a lot of people don't even understand that it happens. They consider it a conspiracy theory. Yeah, people get banned off PayPal all the time, but it's not politically motivated. I mean, it's 90% people of one political affiliation. Can you imagine if that skew existed for a religion? Like, hey, this group of people is 90% less likely to get hired in a certain corporation. They're 90% less likely to hire Jews at the Acme Incorporated. Don't you think that would create a probe of some sort, or at least a stink piece from the legacy media? Of course it would. Jolly Grapefruit, do you watch Jimmy Dore? He's hilarious and calls out the BS from all sides. Very based. I wouldn't call him based, but he is entertaining, and I do sometimes watch Jimmy Dore. Michael Greco, media seems to do cope articles about anything that may go against Trump, saying they got him now. Then it's quickly followed by an article howling with rage, something that may go in his favor, like they memory hole articles. They also howl in rage when something goes in his favor that they predicted prior would go wrong. So with the Letitia James case, for example, in New York, if Trump gets off, oh my God, he got away with it. The corrupt system is corrupt and terrible, and we must burn it to the ground. Yeah, we were praising all the judges and the AG and everything before and saying that the lawyers were basically the apostles of Jesus. But now we think that they all suck because they fucking failed to get Orange Man. The Grizzly. Why is it the Republicans keep falling for the moralist issues and shooting themselves in the foot with issues that are likely to turn off swing voters rather than stick to winning issues? I've spoken about this. The tendency of Republicans to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, partially because they fear winning. Neocons specifically, the MAGA Republicans don't tend to do this. They fear winning. They prefer to lose, actually, because then they can bow their heads solemnly and be very graceful about it, and then have a book deal with their liberal friends. Will make sure that the Chinese buy 50,000 copies. Be 100,000 if they won, but they're too stupid to realize that sometimes. And secondly, the GOP has been cluttered with actual moralists for a while. They haven't gone away. Just to be clear, if the GOP takes everything over, they'll act in a moralistic manner too. Big problem. That's why I'm not an authoritarian. Hinkhall, Clank the live streams made traffic tolerable. Joe, why are Jews always blamed for problems and subject to so much hate? I think there's plenty of hate to go around at this point, and it seems like there's an AstroTurf attempt by the legacy media and the powers that be to get every group of people to think that every other is against them. I have noticed this. X hates Y, ergo Y should vote a certain way. Y should want the government to protect them. But that means you need to pay more taxes if you want them to do that, because they're basically like a mafia. Goat book reviews on Rumble. What is your opinion about the book 2034, A Novel of the Next World War? I've never read it, so I don't have an opinion on it. Probably should read it. Next news story, John Fetterman can't hide from his abysmal criminal justice record. Yes, Fetterman is having some problems. As long as he was more or less absent, like nobody wanted to criticize him right after he had a stroke because that looks bad. When people started to criticize him, he immediately pivoted to, you're making fun of me because I just had a stroke. I have trouble speaking. It worked for a few days, but then the excuse got old, leading to a situation where he had to finally agree to debate Mehmet Oz. The problem is that people have found their footing with regards to him and issues. They're no longer giving him a pass for simply not elaborating on his views. And unfortunately, some years ago, well, I'll just read this to you. Fetterman is otherwise proud of supporting the release of murderers. In 2019, the Pennsylvania Board of Pardons, which Fetterman chairs, unanimously approved the release of Charles Goldblum. Goldblum and an accomplice, Charles Miller, had lured George Willem into a parking garage in 1976 where Miller stabbed him 26 times. Goldblum later admitted that he and Miller burned down his restaurant and that Willem knew of their involvement. While Goldblum was out on bond in 76 awaiting trial, he also attempted to have Miller killed so he could not testify against him. In spite of this, Fetterman's campaign has boasted about releasing Goldblum. Oh, yeah, that's excellent. With the crime sprees due to Bidenomics partially, this is going to be a really great platform for the Pennsylvania voter. See, the thing is, up until the last week or so, people didn't really generally even get confronted with Fetterman's past. Nobody wanted to criticize him because they were afraid because he had a stroke. And because he trotted out the I had a stroke, you're not allowed to criticize me thing. I'm differently abled now. It's basically the same as if I were non-binary. If you criticize me, I'm going to call you a bigot. It's not working. At the 11th hour, right before October, as the polls close, as Biden begins, in my opinion, I think over the next week or so to falter again, as new economic news is expected, and I can't imagine that it's going to be good. The Landlord Harassment Channel cover a Charles Manson song. I could do that sometime. Seor, skateboards, bikes, SUVs, now cars. The left can't be trusted with assault vehicles. Ride the bus, man. Ride the bus. Now, they're riding the short bus. JB Hicks sent 666, and it rhymes. Good on you, but no comment. You had the opportunity to send a comment that also rhymed. That would have been even more epic. You get a silver trophy instead of gold. I kid. It is funny. King Salmonfish, Divide and Conquer, NPD, non-player disorder. Just a second here. Okay. Yeah, John Fetterman. Next news story. Well, I'm not really covering the news story so much. I'm just going to go on a mini rant here. U.S. farmers grab the lobbying pitchforks as Greens sow costly new reporting mandates. Yes, all over the entire world, farmers are under attack because they create runoff and emissions and meat bad and things like that. I would like to point something out. It's been pointed out by many others. But it doesn't really get through to people who have lived their lives in an urban setting. In an urban setting, they imagine, I guess, farms as being nothing but an endless stockyard with smokestacks everywhere. And that's where your meat comes from. And they imagine, I guess, the Bill Gates factory monoculture farm is the only kind of farming of agricultural products that they can envision. None of these people, for the most, have actually been to the actual countryside with small family farms. Like I come from Vermont and northern New England more generally, technically born in New Hampshire, plenty of farms there too. Family farm, it can be an orchard, a bunch of corn, sunflowers grow there. They have some cows, they have a dairy or whatever. There's usually a plethora of different products. It's usually not a monoculture when you're talking about smaller farming. Some of it's hobby farming. Some of it's very niche. You know, they're organic kale that they sell to the hippies that think that it's medicinal or whatever. Actually, they're not supposed to eat that many crucifers in their diet, but you know, they don't see their kidneys as important, I suppose. And they make pickles and cheese and wine and shit like that. If you have monocultural farming, like 100 acres of nothing but GMO corn, Yeah, farms, definitely. They're not very efficient. They can be problematic. If you're talking about family farms and shit like that, that's not polluting. Um, Grass absorbs CO2. Cow poo-poo is good for fertilization. It's good to turn, you can compost it first usually, spray it back on the crops and shit. Milk is yummy. It's good for you. Cow farts are not going to punch a hole in the ozone layer or turn the planet into Tatooine. But your city might. All of the emissions from the cars there, all of the waste, the extreme amount of waste, generally in urban settings, the excesses, the excessive use of virtually every possible thing that you can think of, the amount of waste that's produced. Cities are the problem. Farms aren't the problem. So why is it that legislation keeps getting promoted by various governments and so-called activistic groups to try to curb farming? Like here in the Netherlands, Rutte's crazy idea is effectively the confiscation of a significant double-digit proportion of all the farmland in the country. He has dovetailed this with statements indicating what I said to begin with, which was the whole scheme was to get the farmland on the margins of cities, grab as much as possible, and then develop it into housing and businesses. Which one creates more pollution and which one creates more economic output? That's all you have to ask. More pollution is caused by that urban setting, but it also has a higher economic output. An acre of apartments will bring in a lot more tax money than an acre of corn. That's really the long and short of it. And the Netherlands is being redesigned to be a hyper goddamn high capacity, high density, effectively hellhole, when right now it's very, very nice and there's farms and shit everywhere. Instead of small villages with a church that no one attends and a bunch of cows around it, you'll have more and more and more of these commie block style tenements that are going up. And you can watch the construction of these slab structures. To be clear, they may look nice on the outside, but they are effectively nothing more than lower density commie blocks. And they want more and more and more of them. That's because they're making a bet that the banking sector will continue to pour into the Netherlands and they have unlimited growth. Oh boy, is the Netherlands making the god-awfulest of all possible goddamn economic mistakes. You're going to need your own crops fairly soon, let me tell you that. When the world recession hits, over the next few years, the Netherlands is going to get hit like a goddamn freight train. It is not going to be pretty, just to be clear. The Netherlands will fare better than some parts of the United States. Just to be clear, the Dutch will just build another dam and some more levees and shit like that, and they'll make themselves more land where there wasn't any before. It still will take a great deal of effort. The Blue Dog Man, what reading would you recommend for a comparison between communist and dictator takeover of other countries to what is happening in the U.S. now? I don't have any to recommend. My apologies. Hismanai, Happy Clank. And of course, now Fly is trying to interrupt me. I'm doomed. Sparky, and I didn't get much sleep last night either. I've been up since 5 o'clock in the fucking morning. Sparky, war on small farms, part of the war on small businesses. Yeah, they don't want anyone to be self-sufficient. They also want much more tax revenue. Because remember, if it's denominated in funny money, it doesn't matter if the productivity is lower. It just matters if the amount of money, the grift, is bigger. Next news story. This is a fact check news story, so I'll keep it brief. And this is from Finland. Situation at Finland's borders has not changed with the announcement of Russian mobilization. There are videos circulating on social media, at least some of which have already been filmed before and now taken out of context. There is incorrect information in circulation. Apparently, some people are putting out video feed footage and stills from the Finnish border with Russia of cars backed up and shit like that. And it's actually from long in the past. It's not actually a mass exodus of people from Russia. And this is being pointed out. By the way, good on the Finnish media for pointing this out, because, of course, Russia man bad. Therefore, if you question the validity, you will immediately be called a Russian shill. It's being reported by the Finnish news media and the government there, though. No, there's no problem at the border. Everything's normal. What are you talking about? Can you imagine you get the shock of your life? Someone sends you that picture and you're like, you have to look out of the window at your border post and you're like, what the fuck? Did I step into a time capsule or something? Is this the Mandela effect? What the hell is going on? And then they have to go in the internet probably and realize, oh shit, it's from 6 months ago. There were a lot of tourists that day. The Russians were going to the beach. Anyway, that's just a mild fact check. I wanted to cover that because I've been talking mainly, I don't cover the Russia-Ukraine thing very much anyway, because a lot of it's bullshit. And that's because it's the fog of war. And so oftentimes people, even authoritative sources, don't know what the hell is going on. And so if they don't know what's going on, why should I report on it? Then you've got a whole nother layer of being unsure what the hell is going on. And now we've got the final news story of the day. I will keep it short today because, again, I'm tired, number one, and number two, I've been interrupted twice already, and there's a fly buzzing around. Next thing you know, the cat will jump on my head and, rip into my scalp, and I'll have to finish the stream with blood pouring down my face. The plant will mutate because of radioactivity and start attacking me. I'll start choking on my own spit or something like that. Something terrible will happen. Speak of the fuzzy devil here, by the way. Please don't jump on my head and, cause me to bleed all over myself. Anyway, we'll talk about this. Inside Sean King's shadowy $6.7 million nonprofit, it looks like Sean King, Talcum X, of course, is finally fucked. It looks like he is probably down and out at this point, not just down. This is stuff like this has happened before. He's a grifter. He's a con man. Apparently an embezzler, or at least that's the allegation. Threatens to sue people constantly, despite potentially here doing something legally actionable for which he might be sued. We'll wait and see what happens with that. I think his Twitter right now, and someone can fact check this, is his Twitter still active? Because I know he took it down for a while there. I don't know that his Twitter is even up. And he's got some problems. Here's the problem. Sean King's grassroots law project amassed and spent millions after George Floyd's murder, including six-figure payouts to himself and allied consultants. Oh, so you took a grassroots law project, I guess promising equity in the law for black people or something. Not that Sean King is, but, out of the kindness of his heart, he was trying to help the less fortunate. But you were paying yourself six figures from it. What a goddamn gravy. It sounds like the left-wing version of the Lincoln Project, actually. And this is the Daily Beast crucifying him, by the way. When you're a leftoid, you can't get the Daily Beast to say, well, we're not exactly sure. This may just be bullshit, but here's this report people were sitting on for a while, and we have questions to ask. We're not saying anything bad about Mr. King. Just to be clear, please don't sue us. We're not saying anything bad about him. We're just saying that there are some questions. He should come out and answer them, because otherwise the evil right-wingers will crucify him and make an example of him. It'll be unhelpful to our cause. You can't even get him to do that. They've got tax documents here. The tax documents reveal that during the first year of its existence, a period that coincided with the largest racial justice protests in the nation's history, the organization collected more than $6.67 million. Further, Federal Election Commission records also show that two political action committees tied to the controversial activist have poured close to $500,000 into the organization. They've got PAC money as well. The single largest expenditure the Grassroots Law Project made in its first year was $2.6 million, which the disclosures only state to bridge the gap between grassroots organizing and legal expertise to reform the American justice system. So is this CRT pushing? Probably. In all honesty, I don't think that money was embezzled. Is this pushing CRT in the professional field, or did this go into someone's pocket? I mean, in the end, obviously it did, but for what purpose is the question. These restorative boards received considerable publicity and fanfare, along with their own website, fundraising page, and multiple social media accounts when the Grassroots Law Project and the local prosecutors announced them in early July 2020. But more than 2 years on, the Commission's online pages appear largely stagnant, much like the initiative itself. So basically, you got a bunch of investment up front, and you did a bunch of big things. You make your website, you make a big splash, you share it out on Twitter, you share it out on YouTube, you get a TikTok and all that shit. You hire a couple of influencers to do a funny dance and talk about your existence, and then you get more investment in it. And it's kind of like a pyramid scheme, isn't it? You make that initial investment. It's a very real one. There's nothing wrong with it. But then money pours in and you don't do anything further. There is no actual product there. And so you make millions of dollars. The nonprofit asserted that the COVID pandemic was partially to blame for all three commissions' failures to launch. Oh, we've seen that from other corporations and groups as well. COVID made me do it. And the devil made me do it. So yeah, Sean King is getting dragged, and he's not getting dragged by the right wing. They're just bemused by this. I'm only talking about it because I find this amusing. The left is dragging him more than anyone else, calling him a grifter, which I mean he is, but you know, the fucking the pot calling the kettle white. The landlord harassment channel. Look at your game, Joe. That'll be your Manson cover. Sparky, watch the Duran to know what's going on in Ukraine. I keep hearing about them. Sparky, when you pet your cat, you should say, "Good evening, Mr. Bond." Yeah, why doesn't Sean King just get an OnlyFans like other losers do? All he has to do is take feet pictures. He'll have to pay people to look at them, probably. That's the problem. Yeah, the pot calling the kettle white is like the Daily Beast calling out Sean King. I'm not going to defend the dude because I don't like him. He's a censorious legalese grifter. But my God, watching the left-wing media dogpile the dude is the ultimate hypocrisy that I've seen in quite some time. Oh, he was grifting. He took a bunch of money from people. What the fuck do you do for a living? You're not exactly making an honest living if you're working for the Daily Beast. You put out government propaganda mainly, and where does your money come from? Checks probably are written in Chinese, so give me a fucking break. Anyway, I'll overlook the hypocrisy just to have the funniness of having Talcum X get dogpiled. It is worth it. I'll deal with the hypocrisy temporarily. Anyway, I think that I'm going to go offline now. I would go longer, but I've been interrupted several times. I'm not very energetic today. I've still got leftover beef stew, which, by the way, came out fucking perfect, except that next time I'm going to double the amount of meat. Be cooking it again soon. Liz liked it too, by the way. Everyone likes my cooking. So, I mean, I got to polish some of that off at some point. Pet the cat. It's harder to do that when you're on a live stream because then you get distracted. You're like, oh, so fuzzy, so soft. And then you lose track of what you were saying. I've lost track since the computer fucked up. I've been a little bit more scattered today. My apologies, everyone. So, yeah, to the roughly 5,000 people that showed up anyway, that's about all. Peace out.